Good afternoon. Welcome to the Olin Business School at Washington University in St. Louis. My name is Evan Buffetus. I'm the Assistant Dean and Director of MBA Admissions and Financial Aid here at Olin. Thank you for your time. We are very pleased to talk to you a little bit about the Olin Business School and Washington University. The first thing that most prospective students are interested in hearing about is a little bit about the admissions process. So let me cover a few areas that might be helpful to you as you think about your research in going to business school and perhaps applying through the Olin Business School process. I think there are a number of things that we look at when we look at prospective students. At a very fundamental level, first and foremost, this is an educational institution and we want to make sure that we take people who can survive the academic rigor of the program. So we look at a number of pieces of data for that. The chief among these are your academic records and your GMAT scores. We also, secondly, look for people who exhibit professional success early in their careers and who we hope by extension will continue to be professionally successful as alums of the program. So we will look quite heavily at your work experience, both in terms of the quantity but also the quality of what you have done. I would say that the most important factor is that the quality of the work experience by far dominates the decision-making process from us as an admissions committee. So within that we look for evidence of leadership potential, we look for perhaps promotion, we look for the scope of responsibility that you've had. And then finally, we want to take people who will fit into our community. We are a relatively small business school. We take in about 150 students each year, and we want to make sure that everybody will be actively engaged in the process, both inside and outside of the classroom. So as we assess your application, we want to make sure that you are the type of individual who will feel comfortable in that environment. So when we ask you a number of questions in the application or in interviews, we tend to highlight things like team building that you may have had in the past, any kinds of exposure that you have had to working on projects, any kinds of exposure that you have had to situations that might have put you in a leadership role in some kind. So we want to make sure that the people who come in here understand the active team environment. When you come to Olin, as with many good business schools, you are asked to work in relatively small groups of about 4 or 5 individuals. Each person comes in with a different set of skills. Each person comes in with a different strengths and different weaknesses. But that's part of the strength of the MBA program. It's a collaborative environment, and what that means is that we expect that our students will help each other out. While MBA students are usually quite competitive and ambitious, it is also the case that we want to promote a family type of environment, one where people can help each other out when they need the help and can receive help from others. As you think about your submission of the application, it's very important that you understand the timing of the admissions decisions. As with the case of many business schools, we have distinct admissions rounds, and these are typically one in early fall, one in January, one in March, and then finally one in May. I think for international students in particular, it's probably best to try to get your application in relatively early on in the process. We see many of our international students applying in the January deadline. That is not to say that you cannot be admitted if you apply a bit later, but I think that you want to put yourself in the best position possible. I would never urge you to sacrifice the quality of your application just to get it in earlier. But if in fact you feel like your application is strong, your essays are the way that you want them, your letters of recommendation and your GMAT score is acceptable to you, then it's best to apply earlier rather than later. That will allow us to render a decision as quickly as possible as well, which probably is quite important to you as you think about moving from your professional career into your educational career. As you think about the kinds of research that you do when you look at MBA programs, I think one of the best kinds of research is to actually come and visit the campuses for all the schools that you may be interested in applying to. It's one thing to look at websites, it's one thing to read brochures, but you cannot truly get a feel for the environment unless you're able to physically visit campus. Now I realize that oftentimes that may not be possible, but to the extent that you can visit the schools, it's probably in your best interest to do so. Oftentimes schools, as is the case with Olin, will allow you to sit in on classes, talk to current students, go to lunch with our students, and meet with admissions representatives so that you can conduct an interview. That will allow you to put your face in front of an admissions committee member to tell us a little bit more about you beyond what the application can provide. And in fact, I think trying to get an interview at the schools is in your best interest. It's one thing to read about an applicant on paper, but it's a very different thing to be able to assess a candidate when you meet with them face to face. Because part of what we're looking for is also things like communication skills, interpersonal skills, and leadership skills. And sometimes the best way to assess a candidate for that is to actually meet them one-on-one in a personal interview.